What's up, pretty people? My name is Binz, and welcome back to the Shapez BEASTMAM series. We've spent quite a few episodes working on this factory's clock. And if all of that has been too abstract for you, then I have some good news. Today, we're going to start looking at how we can convert the clock's output signals to actual floating piece signals. So without further ado, Chapter 4b, Episode 5a, Colors to Shapes, Part 1. That's right, this will be a multi-part episode, and in terms of the hierarchical structure I decided to give the videos in this series, we are digging deeper and deeper. I've made a few tweaks to our machine since we last saw each other because I couldn't be bothered to figure out what was wrong during my recording session last time. The mistake I made was with the uncolored signal. The uncolored signal is used, firstly, whenever the shape doesn't have any quadrants on the layer that a given cycler represents, or, secondly, whenever we want to disable that particular cycler because it doesn't correspond to the float piece we're currently checking. Among others, the fact that I erased the memory cells in such cases, that would trigger the falling edge detector sometimes, which is responsible for sending a pulse to the next cycler so that it would skip to its next value. And that is what sent the machine into an unintended loop. Anyway, all of that has been fixed, and I've also made some tick optimizations. Now on to today's question. How will we convert these clock signals into actual floating pieces? That's what we'll have a look at. So, what's the next step? Well, first we need an alignment module.
Vince, what is an alignment module?
Well, if you have a certain number of parallel lanes, but you don't necessarily have input for all of them, then sometimes you might want to rearrange those inputs and move them all to one side, for example, so it becomes easier to connect them to other parts of the factory. On the physical layer, that may look like this, right? You can see, for example, that if we cut the line with the red circles on it, then all the other shapes will switch lanes so that when they come out at the top, they neatly occupy the topmost lanes only. Now, this is a machine I sloppily threw together. There are definitely more elegant ways to do this. There is some overlap when the shapes are redirected, but this is one way you could do it, right? The fact that it's sloppy is kind of beside the point. And there's more even. It's not even the physical layer we are interested in for today. For now, we need this principle, but on the wiring layer. We will get to why in a minute. First, let's look at how we could do it. So, this is one way, and my purpose is that at the bottom, the input right here can be any flat piece with any given amount of quadrants, and that those quadrants then get isolated and shifted to the left. This is also a tick precise module, so any input, regardless of the amount of quadrants, will take the exact same time to process. Let's put some random inputs in and see it in action. So I could take this shape, for example, and we will see that it gets output to the left, right? So let's take this other one, and now let's do this in slow motion. This is a shape with two pieces, and if we counted the ticks, then we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Let's try this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Try one with 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you see that every time after 10 ticks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, our input gets swapped for the new input. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's how that works. So that's the idea. Whichever amount of quadrants we have, and whichever those quadrants are, the signals are always redirected to the leftmost outputs. Now, why do we need this? Pay attention, because this is the kicker. Step 1. We are going to bring in our source shape, the same one as the one that operates the clock. Give me a minute. Like so. Done. Step 2. We bring in our clock output lines as well, one per layer. Like so. Step 3. We apply the same float piece lane filter principle as the one we hooked up to the clock, except this time we connect it not to the coded values that indicate the amount of quadrants on the layers, but to the layers of the shape itself. There we go. And finally, step 4, we add a little matching module on top that matches the output colors of the clock with the actual shape pieces. Like so. And now let's connect some displays to our output. And let's reset our shape value real quick. And now, boom, magic. If we now let the clock cycle, you will see that the outputs are transformed to actual quadrants of our shape. And not only do they cycle with tick precision, the outputs are also filtered per layer in accordance to the float piece we're currently checking. Have a look at this. Now, we are checking layers 2 and 3, which means we are trying to create floating we're going to try to create duo floats on layers 2 and 3. And if we cycle through that, one more, and one more. Now, if I hit the button again, we will switch to layers 3 and 4, like so. Now let's cycle through that. And now we get tri-floats on layers 1, 2, and 3. So why is this lane sorting thing? Why is that relevant? Well, by doing this, we've moved away from the actual orientation and layout of the quadrants in favor of a system where only the amount of quadrants matters. If there is one quadrant, it will be sent to the leftmost output. 2 quadrants, the leftmost 2 outputs, and so on. And that principle is something we applied in the clock as well. If there is 1 quadrant, the signal is white. If there are 2 quadrants, blue and white. 3 quadrants, green, blue, and white. All right? So this means that in our conversion module, because we redirect the quadrants if not all of them are given, we can map the colors of our clock to the output lanes of our alignment module in a 1-to-1 ratio. The white signal is always mapped to the leftmost output, the blue one to the second output, the green one to the third output, and the red one to the 4th output. And that will always work out. Let's demonstrate it by trying a shape that has 3 quadrants on each layer, all right? There we go, that's the shape. So you can see I took out the top left quadrant, which is the windmill quadrant. And now let's see how our transformation module behaves. Instead of 4 pieces, we are now only going to check 3 pieces. So this is 1, 2, 3, and now the green one will switch. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we will already switch to the next floating pair, which is layers 2 and 3. Look at this. There we go. And once again, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. There we go. Well, there is a little bit of delay, of course, meanwhile, because of all of these ticks and everything that needs to synchronize and move through the modules. But when I hit the button, then sometime later, everything will work out the way I want it to with tick precision. Awesome, right? But we are only halfway there, because while we have managed to isolate the quadrants and cycle through them, we do want to work towards signals of actual floating pieces. How can we do that? Well, I don't get to say this often, but the fact that we're working in Shapez Industries and not in vanilla Shapez actually makes life a bit easier for once. So how can we do that? I am just going to use a nipper technique, right? I don't know if you know it. The nipper is... where is it? Come on. There we go. This is the nipper. And if you input a signal, then it will simply cut out the top right of the shape. Right? Like this. That's what we're going to do. So, for each signal that we get, let me get rid of these displays real quick. For each signal that we get, I am going to output 4 lanes. And I'm going to brute force my scaffolding. That's actually the way I could sum it up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And now let's take this currently, well, I was about to say currently selected piece. We don't have one, so let's reset this shape real quick. Or use this one again, so that the machine resets. Okay, so the top right quadrant is currently the selected one, and I've paused the game. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a scaffolding piece. One in the top right, the next one in the bottom right, the next one in the bottom left, in the top left. So I'm just going to brute force this scaffolding piece. Like so. And now I stack everything together that has the scaffolding, that has the same scaffolding piece. So top left is stacked together, bottom left stacked together, bottom right stacked together, and top right stacked together. Let's do that real quick. Alright, and that is kind of what that starts to look like. Now, let's see if I can zoom out so that I can get the displays and my button on screen. And now, if we start to cycle through this, then we will start getting all kinds of weird pieces, right? And now we've switched over to the duo floats on layers 3 and 4. Now, there is, of course, more to the system. We are not there yet, but we have taken a very important step. And I think with this step, that is where I would like to leave it for today. We currently still get outputs that don't make any sense, but next time I would like to have a look at how we can filter those nonsensical shapes, these shapes that we definitely don't need, how we can filter those out so that we don't pollute the machine, because some of these outputs we will definitely need. We do need them, right? So next time we will look at how we can create filters so that we only get to keep those things that we want and that we need, and we can discard the other ones. If you are curious to discover that with me, then I greatly welcome you to subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoyed this video, then I always appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up or a nice comment. But for today, I am signing off. Thank you very much for watching. Ciao.